'Cause I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I've breathed the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. Been to Tullamore, Seymour,
Tambo.
Lullaby, Nambo, Roochdore, Kilmore,
Tambo.
Birdsville, Emmaville, Wallaville, Connemara, Connemara, Strathround, Prospine,
Tambo.
Darwin, Gingin, Lilliquin, Muckilla, Wallamilla, Bougainville, Cumberland,
Tambo.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I've breathed
Not surprisingly, we are heading off to Tambo, where we find Alison Shaw. G'day, Alison.
Hi, how are you?
Going very well. Thanks for joining us on Regional Roundup. Now, it's Neil here. Rob's the other one that you've already spoken to. Now, Rob said to me when he walked in the door today, where on earth's Tambo? So that's a really good starting point. You better tell us where that is.
I know, he just said that to me on the phone.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Tambo.
That's extraordinary, isn't it?
In the middle of Queensland. We're 1,000 kilometres from Brisbane. We're south of Longreach. We're north of Charleville, right in the centre.
Beautiful. Longreach, of course, as I said to you off air, the shearing capital of the world. And
is that where Ed came from?
Ed Sheeran?
Ed Shearing?
No.
No?
No.
See what I did there?
You idiot. So, is there lots of sheep up there?
Oh, not so many these days. There used to be. The country, it was all settled with sheep, and there was every property had sheep. Today, there's about seven properties with sheep.
Yeah, because we do need to understand that at some stage there were 170 million sheep in Australia. There's now about 70 million. So there's been a major change agriculturally in that area. So your own region is a classic case of that.
Absolutely. So when they had the big wool stockpile back in early 90s, that's when people started going out of sheep in our district. And then, of course, there was sort of a bit of an influx of wild dogs, so that sort of got rid of another lot of people with sheep. And, of course, with it, the shearers left the towns as well.
So the folk of Tambo, there's one business that we'll come back to shortly that is well known in Tambo. But what do the folk in and around Tambo do if they're not doing sheep anymore?
Oh, well, there's cattle. The cattle industry is very strong, so people work on the properties there. They also like working in town. Council's a big employer. Trucks. There's a lot of trucks and trucking businesses in Tambo. I think we've probably got more trucks per capita than a lot of other regions. People keep pretty busy.
So when people are going through Tambo, where are they generally going to or coming from?
Oh, from down south. Like we're on the Matilda Way. We're right in the middle of the Matilda Way. So that runs right from Melbourne right through to Corumba.
Okay.
So we're sort of, we're a main thoroughfare, we consider.
Okay.
What about the grey nomads? If they come to Tambo and they're not necessarily agriculturally connected, what do you have in your region that would make their trip memorable?
Yeah, well, they do come, as you referenced before, they come to see teddy bears. So Tambo is very well known for Tambo teddies. It is the teddy bear capital of Australia, and we make sheepskin teddy bears in the tiny town of Tambo. We've got about 380 people in the town.
That explains where the 100 million sheep went. You've turned them into teddy bears.
Not quite 100 million.
And lambs. That is to say, they make lambs out of sheepskin as well.
Oh.
Yeah, Tambo Lambos.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So these are not just your average teddy bear. Am I right in saying there's some very, very important people who own them?
Oh, yes, like myself. No. They have, look, Queensland government have given them they're a bit of a gift of choice. They've given them to the Royals when they've visited. They sent one over to the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. They're a beautiful bear. They're a real thing to have.
Sorry, is there any other important people that might have one?
I'm just picturing Camilla and Charlie snuggled
we're
up
not
in
talking,
bed with
we're not talking about them either.
teddy.
No, I don't know if they've got one. I haven't seen the online order come through from them.
Mr. and Mrs. C. Windsor. Yeah. No, there's a little fella who lives in Meenian in South Gippsland who has a Tambo Lambo.
Does he?
Yeah, his granddad bought it for him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a nice fella, his granddad.
Lucky.
Yeah. We've decided that this will be a family tradition. We'll get a Tambo Lambo for any grandchildren that come along, and they've got to have a name that rhymes with Tambo Lambo. So at the moment, I think Mavs is called Rambo the Tambo Lambo. So how did that start? I'm fascinated. Obviously, Alison has works there. In fact, is the boss there. How did the thing start? I mean, why build teddies?
It was from actually a government initiative when there was the crash wool prices, and as I said, the shearers were leaving in town. There used to be about 3 shearing teams in Tambo. Now there's not one person worked in the industry. So that's the sort of, that happened to all the little outback towns. So the government came through holding workshops to try and come up with new ideas for economic development and to provide employment. And 3 ladies came up with the idea of Tambo teddies, and I think people thought it was a bit of a throwaway line, and but here we are 30 years later, celebrating 30 years this year.
I detect the little hint that you may have had a particular reason for sending one across to New Zealand. How long have you been over here on a permanent basis, Alison?
30-something years.
It's still there. It's just little, but it's still there.
No, but I did work in the shearing industry for a long time with a lot of Kiwis too, so I think you're sort of, hanging out with your own so you don't lose it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And full disclaimer, Alison and I had a conversation on my podcast, The Regional 250, and she represented is it Blackall Tambo or Tambo Blackall?
It's Blackall Tambo.
Yeah, I thought I might get a bite there. So I'm sure you told me at the time, how on earth does someone who grows up in New Zealand end up in a town in the middle of Queensland?
Yeah, well, I was actually at uni over there doing ag science, and I came over here on my uni holidays, Jillaruing, down to New South Wales, place in Inverell actually. I was milking goats. And then I decided I didn't want to go back to uni, didn't want to go back, I wanted to go to the outback. And so I answered a job put an ad in the paper and got a job in Tambo as a Jillaroo and came out, and then I met my husband in the local pub.
Yeah, that's the way. That's never happened before, has
those
it?
Great Australian stories, I love it.
Yeah, the Karangara.
Magnificent. How modern as the Tambo Teddy business model become since it started 30 years ago?
Yeah, look, we really take our hats off to the ladies who started it, because there wasn't a thing called Google, I don't think, back then. And if they wanted to find something, they'd have been working the yellow pages and on the phone. Now if we're looking for something, you just Google it and then you talk to contacts and things. Yeah, we're definitely, when we purchased it in 2014 and implemented a digital strategy straight away, and, of course we are online and we send them all over the world. We use social media, anything digital we use. Plus we have actually expanded into Toowoomba, because as I referenced, Tambo's only got about 380 people. So a bit hard to find enough people to sew teddy bears there. So we've set up down here, and we actually employ migrant refugees down here in Toowoomba, Toowoomba's a resettlement city. So it's really great for them. They have the skills we need, and, it's hard for them to get jobs because they have limited English and things. So it's been a great partnership there. We moved down here in 2019.
And when she says down here, what she means is down there, because clearly we're ringing you in Tambo this morning. Yeah. We wouldn't be talking to you in Toowoomba, of course.
No. Tell me about the manufacturing process from 30 years ago to now.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. We have the skins, we have our template patterns, we have had all our patterns digitised just to, cut out into a hard material. We draw them all up by hand, we cut them by hand with a Stanley knife, and then each individual sewer sews the teddy bear together. There's 19 pieces make a teddy bear, and then they turn them out and they stuff them and sew them up by hand. So each bear is individually made, it's individually named and numbered as well. So they never look the same. They're all different,
Well, it's a fascinating story, not only the fact that you're in Tambo, brackets not really, but we pretend you are, and that a business like that is just kicking on and literally taking on the world is just fantastic, and it's really good to be able to find out a little bit about that, and of course a little bit about your hometown as well.
Yeah, it's a great little town.
Thank you for joining us today on Regional Roundup, Alison. We'll be in touch, no doubt, down the track, but all power to you, and tamboteddies.com, I'm assuming? Okay, Tambo, Tambo, teddies.com.au. Alison Shaw in Tambo, thanks for talking to us today.
Yeah, thanks for chatting.
See you later.